Welcome back to the Something in the Wilderness podcast. My name's Steve, and in each episode of the show, we're here to discuss a different Andrew McMahon song. And if you're new here, good news. You can listen to these episodes in any order you like. Today we have a returning guest to talk about a song that, well, if crowd reaction at a live show means anything, I think it's a well-loved song in the modern era of Andrew McMahon. Today's guest and I chat about music a lot, and every once in a while, we like to hit record while we're doing it. So welcome back to the show, Andrew.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward
So
to
how
it.
have you been? Anything new with you?
Yeah, good. Got about a year and a half ago in school. We've talked about that
Yeah.
offline, but for all the listeners, going to join the therapist of the Andrew McMahon universe, which is plentiful. So therapists and teachers. So I love it. A lot of our mutual friends are therapists. Yeah, school, and then we got a house in August. Actually, right after the week after I saw Jax in St. Louis, then like the next week, I think it might have been a weekday, so it might have even been less than a week. We were in the house that I'm in now and realized that we like that night that we wanted to make an offer on it. And so it was kind of a whirlwind because I remember talking to people at that concert. It's like, yeah, we're looking at how this is only, we're not going on the cruise. Like, there's only the only show that I'm making it to because Michelle didn't come with me because of work and it being in like the middle of the week, and kind of just being like, yeah, this is it for the year. And because we're getting a house, and then like just like right after getting a house. So that's pretty
You've
exciting.
had a wild year, I remember. So you've bought a house. Your daughter's young, and you're busy with family stuff, and you've got school, and you're gonna have your degree. What next year, right? Is that you got year and a half? You said. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Busy time in your life. I appreciate you making time to talk a little bit of music today. This is always fun. We always have a good time here. So, as you mentioned, well, you kind of alluded to it, but right before you saw Jax last year, I think that was the timing you were on here. Is the last time you were on here last summer, and I might have the timeline a little mixed up. It's been almost a year, and
Yeah, it was right after.
okay, gotcha.
Because I remember you asking me if I'd listened to the live recording of it yet, and I hadn't. And I did go back and listen to it, purchased it, and listened to it,
Oh, of
and
your show.
love it now. Yes,
That's
yes.
right. Yeah, yeah. I ended up buying all three of the shows that I went to, for better or for worse. I was just like, I have to have
I
them
don't
now.
blame you. I don't blame you. I hope he does that every
I do
tour.
too. I think it's so satisfying to go back and listen to a show that I witnessed myself. It actually helps my bad memory. So like, there's a lot of things I think I miss. Okay,
Yeah,
now I feel like I
same.
remembered it at least, because like there was a funny thing that happened at the Columbus show, and all the audio's there. So it's like, oh, I remember that now. It's on the audio. So
Yeah. There's been a few times like I've just at any show, like we all do, like I've had time I was telling like a really funny story, and like Michelle was texting with a show she wasn't at, and so like I'm responding to her, and I heard his story, but it's like, man, I really wish I could go back and not be distracted and listen to the full
even when I
story.
feel like I'm 100% focused, I somehow miss things though. So like when I hear them back, I'm like, wow, how did I not remember that? But glad to have it on a recording. So
Yeah, the shows become a blur too sometimes. Like have I seen that song?
exactly.
Oh, yeah, I have. Yeah.
So how about musically? Again, it's been nearly a year, and what's has anything changed for you musically, like in the way you're listening to music, your connection, or like going to shows, things like that? Anything new?
Yeah, still going to shows
Mm-hmm.
as always. I love live music, as we both
Mm-hmm.
do. One of the things that immediately connected us when we met in Pontiac, like just like the idea of traveling for music or going to music. Haven't traveled really since getting the house, which is okay, but some good shows have come through Memphis. And last night I actually volunteered at a music festival here and got to see Dave Matthews. That was a lot of fun. I was working the ADA part of it, and a few people came and went, but there was one person or two people there, and they were there, and like she had been to like 170 some Dave shows,
Wow.
and she was like, "It's your first time?" She's like, "I love first time." I was like, "Yeah, this is great." Like he was like a lot of fun. I'm not like the world's biggest Dave Matthews fan, but he was like a lot of fun. I can see the appeal of seeing him live for sure. And yeah, just I listen to a lot of Taylor Swift because my my daughter loves Taylor.
Can relate.
I love
Yeah.
Taylor Swift
Yeah.
too,
Having
but my daughter
daughters helps
loves
with that.
Taylor Swift. So she was singing both "Cruel Summer" and Miss Americana and the Heartbreak Prince on the way to school today in the back of the car. I was like, you know the words.
That's
Whoa.
awesome. I loved that when I
Yeah.
first started noticing. My kids are going on 15 and 13 now, but I noticed that when they started like knowing the songs that I liked, which was, and maybe we're talking Taylor Swift, maybe Andrew, but maybe Andrew McMahon or maybe something else. But like, it's still pretty cool when they know like what I call real music, not just like kids music, because we listened to a lot of that when they were really young. But it's cool when they start getting into like what I call real music, and then they develop their
Yeah.
own tastes. And my daughter was just telling me that she was excited that she watched the Olivia Rodrigo SNL performances on YouTube when she got home from school today because her friend told her about them. So she
Oh
was
yeah.
pretty psyched about that. She was like, she played a new song that hasn't even been released yet, and I was like, oh, I got to check it out. That's cool.
That is really
Yeah,
cool. I'll have to check that out
yeah.
too. I didn't realize she was a musical guest.
So something I've been trying to do with music, and I want to mention is that like I'm trying to go back and listen to albums that I love, and I've noticed like with the way streaming works, it's so easy to like I just click on, oh, this is what it's feeding me, and sometimes it's stuff I love already, sometimes it's new. I don't get into too much like brand new type music, but it's recommending me the new album by the band I like, right? So I listen to those things. I before we started recording, like I mentioned, the starting line as an example of an album that I went through, and we talked about the format. But I've been trying to go back to some of those essential, what I call essential albums for me personally, that I just like I don't think to put on sometimes. So I've tried to make a list like mentally and actually on my phone of like these are the albums I kind of want to go back to and re-listen to over and over again like I used to. Like, and I'm just gonna name a few. Like, my favorite Highway is a pop punk emo band from like 10 years ago. They only had one album, and I love it. And I've been listening to that so much. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if that band is going to be one of my tops on my Spotify end of year wrap this year because I've listened to that so much in the last month. The Perishers is another band that I was really into like 20 years ago. Sherwood, another like pop punk
Yeah.
adjacent band. Do you know Sherwood?
Yeah. Yeah. They've
Okay.
actually liked a couple of my posts on Instagram
Oh
randomly. So
yeah.
yeah.
You know what? I should follow them on Instagram. I don't know that I'm following them on Instagram. That's funny. But again, I've kind of lost touch with some of those bands that, again, I considered like those albums were essential in my listening. And I kind of got, fed the algorithm, which is good. It's helpful to hear the new stuff and all that. And like, but I found that I forget about some albums that I wish I hadn't forgotten about. And so I'm trying to remember those now.
Same.
But also, like I mentioned, the starting line, the format. I was surprised at how much I liked that album because I'm not the world's biggest format fan. And then the Academy has released a new album recently, and the Cab, which is another kind of one of those like mid 2000s
I
decade
remember
bands.
them.
I was really into a couple of their albums, and they took a long hiatus, and they finally released a new album just a couple weeks ago. Yeah, so I'm trying to like check out that stuff, keep in tune to that stuff too, like the bands I used to love that are kind of coming back around. So
Yeah, I recently on Record Store Day I got a copy of Paramore, their release All We Know Is Falling, and it's kind of the same. Like I just forgot how much I love that album. Like I knew I
yeah,
wanted it,
yeah,
but I haven't listened to it front to back in forever. And obviously, a vinyl forces you to do that, which is great because you and I are both front to back album guys. I think that's part of why I forget about some of these albums. Is like if I'm not just gonna put on a song. I'm gonna sit down. I want to listen to it straight through,
the whole
and that
experience.
sometimes is hard, especially like as we're commuting or whatever, and then you kind of get halfway through an album, and then you're like, oh, I don't want to, I don't want to. Like the album is obviously, ebbing and flowing, and maybe it's like in a slower part of the album, you're like, I'm not in the mood for that right now, and when I'm getting in my car now, so I'm sure you can relate. But yeah, it,
Definitely.
it was just cool, like kind of like going back and like realizing, like, man, this album is phenomenal, and Haley Williams is still like her. You talk about new music, her new album is so good, and it's like, man, I need to go back and listen to more Paramore now. So
Yeah.
kind of similarly.
So that's ironically her new album is one of those that I've missed, And several people have said the same thing, and I don't know why, but I think it's because the sheer length of it, which is so odd for me to say. It's so ironic that I'm saying this because, again, being a self-proclaimed album person, but it's like kind of intimidating to sit. Okay, I gotta go sit down and really focus on these songs, and I think that's what we were joking about the format on a prior episode, Kyle and I, and I think it was like similar. It was like, oh, I really want to focus when I listen to it. So, all right. So I'm making a commitment, like, because I kept to it last time. So I'm going to make a commitment. I'm going to listen to the Haley Williams album. I'm putting her on my list because I love her first two solo albums. I loved them.
Yeah,
I would argue I love them more than I love Paramore. I don't know. It's debatable, but like, it's just a whole different thing. So,
it really is.
yeah.
I love her story.
Hmm.
There's not a lot of artists that just see that in themselves and walk themselves back and be like, man, I was not a good person, but then I realized that and like I love that. That's awesome. Like I have a ton of respect for her as an artist ever since then. And now the music that she's continuing to make is so relevant and
Hmm.
just good stuff.
Well, I'm sold. I will listen to her latest album. I saw she just announced she's in the process of announcing a tour right now. So I don't know if I'll catch one of those. It seems like a bloodbath for tickets on
Oh
those
my
shows,
god.
but
Yeah.
I'm not going to get involved there. But like I'll just listen to the album and see if I enjoy it. Last time, Andrew, we talked on this show, we talked about "I Want to Save You" and by something corporate, and I think today's choice that we picked is going to be pretty different. But this is your fourth song today. And so we've done the rounds. So we've done a Something Corporate song that I just mentioned. We've done Television by Jack's Mannequin. We did Fire Escape, Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness. And we're kind of coming back around to Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness. But without delving into the song choice quite yet, what are the considerations in general? Like, what do you think about when you're like, what song should we talk about? I like for the guest to choose. It doesn't always happen exactly that way. Sometimes we kind of go back and forth. But if it's up to you, like, what are the considerations?
Yeah, that's a good question. For Fire Escape, it was just being such a significant song. I
Hmm.
remember, and you having not done it because I got into your podcast after we met, and I was like, oh man, I really want to go on and talk about Andrew. Like, that sounds awesome. And
Hmm.
it was our first dance at our wedding. So it's like this scene you had not done such a significant song. I was like, oh, let's do Fire Escape.
Yeah.
That like, I knew I wanted to do that one. And then Television, that's my favorite Jack's Mannequin song. Yeah, getting to talk about that was really cool. But I know for I Want to Save You, we did. That was to complete the trifecta. But I Want to Save You was that choice was because I think every Andrew fan has a deep connection with that song because it's the first song on the first album. I know there were a couple EPs prior and Ready Break, but the first major release from the band. Just, I mean, that's such a powerful song and such a just. I mean, he obviously played it the entire SoCo reunion tour in
Hmm.
2025 for good reason, or 2024, sorry, for good reason because it's such a significant song. I remember you talking with Josh on the podcast about that song and him being like, "There's no other song that could have started that album. Like that had to
Yeah.
be the first song on that album." And then this one, honestly though, is because you said on the podcast no one has done it, and I think this is just such a fun song.
Hmm.
Like there's obviously some deeper things we'll get to in the song, but I was like, oh man, nobody's done that. It's such a fun song and it's such a, again, without giving it away, like such a kind of became such a staple live. I'm amazed that no one has wanted to talk about this one.
We kind of talked off recording about it. It's come up. Some guests have mentioned it, but no one's committed to it yet. So you got it. You mentioned it, and we're gonna do it. So we're talking about a song that Andrew's alluding to that I'm going to admit here, I didn't care for it at first. I didn't pay much attention to it until I saw it live.
Same.
Oh, so, okay, good. So we're on the same wavelength here. But when I saw it live, this song really came to life for me. And I think I've said that before about other songs off of this particular album. I'm sure I have. And it wasn't even maybe the first time I saw this song live, but after like maybe two, three, I don't know how, several, it eventually started to work for me and I got it and I was like, okay, this fits for me right now. I remember seeing this song at Bunbury Music Festival. Andrew, I don't know if you've ever heard of that fest.
I did. I actually 21 Pilots filmed a music video there for
Okay.
Lane Boy, the live part of that music video. And that's how I first heard about it. I'm from Evansville, Indiana, which is about 3.5 hours away from Cincy.
Hmm.
Before we moved to Memphis, so where we lived, and Cincy was a real option. A music fest in Cincy, especially one that a lot of artists, including Andrew and 21 Pilots, and then just the lineups I remember were really, really good. And
So good.
in fact, I want to say maybe the year Andrew played, or I don't know, somewhere around that time. Like I really seriously looked at going. I was like, this is, and it was really I remember kind of like the whole theme of the fest was like to keep it somewhat affordable.
Hmm.
That was kind of their shtick and everything, and it just looked like a really fun festival. And I was actually really disappointed when I think
COVID killed it.
they had to cancel, obviously everything canceled because of COVID, and then it never came back. And
Yeah.
I think it was building to be like a major indie pop emo adjacent festival.
Hmm.
Certainly with the bands they were booking were like I could see like if it was still around today, like Fall Out Boy being like one of the headliners
Oh,
after the
they
year.
did. They headlined the last
Did
year.
they have? Okay, they did.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So like it was.
The
Yeah.
only time I've
Very.
ever seen Fallout Boy, actually.
So that tracks. That tracks
Yeah.
exactly. So I'm very saddened. Now, obviously, we're a lot farther away, but
Hmm.
I was saddened to see that festival go. I know they really because I remember going to the website looking for the 2021 lineup, and they kept saying like we're gonna try, we're trying, and then finally it was like we're pulling the plug. I was like, oh man, it sucks.
Yeah, I went the last 2 years of its existence, and I didn't really know about it prior to that. So I went to 2018, which was, I think it was 2018 was the Andrew year, and then I went to 2019 and had an equally good time. But the year I saw Andrew, it was like Fits in the Tantrums, Third Eye Blind, Incubus was a headliner. I can't remember if Jack White was a headliner that year or the following. Maybe he was 2019. Blink 182 was supposed to be a headliner, but as it goes, I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before. I can't count how many times I've either had a ticket to a show or a fest and they've canceled. It's three or four. I've lost track, and that was one of them. So I have like a slight bitterness for that.
Oh
But
man.
yeah, but it was all right. Like I've seen Blink since, and they're great, obviously. And then I saw a great host of bands and artists at Bunbury that were not Blink, so it all worked out. Mr. Wives was actually there too, who I've since seen
Oh
live a few
yeah,
times.
yeah.
Foster the
Like them.
People, I've got written down here. And then I'm in the following year, I mentioned Fall Out Boy. I think the following year was also Jack White. And then who else? Oh, Dashboard was at the following year, the last year. I know I'm missing. Oh, Lovely the band, who I've gotten really into as a result of preparing for that fest back then. And so, great festival, great festival.
Yeah, I think the year that I was really looking at going was the year Blink dropped out because I wanted to go see Blink.
Yeah, and I think that was the Andrew McMahon year, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
And I might have that off because I
Because
get
it
the
was like
2 years
Blink and
confused.
Andrew at the same time, I think, and I was like, oh my gosh, like
Hmm.
I have to get there, but
That's probably accurate. Yeah, that sounds familiar. That's probably why I went. I decided to go. But you mentioned volunteering at a music festival earlier. Coincidence? I volunteered at Bunbury. That's why I was there. Or that, I mean, I wanted to go and I would have bought a ticket, but they were looking for volunteers my
um,
first year, and I had to work 2 4-hour shifts over the course of the weekend. I stayed in Cincinnati both those years, and it was a really great deal. I did the job. I did front gate and I did cleanup, park cleanup, and I had a good time. And then the rest of the fest, I just got to enjoy. Yeah, that was cool. So I got to go for free technically to
yeah,
that
that's
festival.
awesome.
Yeah, and oh,
Volunteering at music festivals
that's
is
so funny. I'm sitting in my, for those who can't see, I'm sitting in my closet and I'm looking at my concert t-shirts that I no longer wear, and my two Bunbury shirts are right there. I can literally see them from where I sit up on a
oh, that's
shelf.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's cool. That's cool. That's dope.
Yeah.
Yeah. For those of you who have music festivals near you, cannot suggest strongly enough volunteering, not just to go for free, but just getting to help out with live music is a lot of fun.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna get political, but like we need to support the arts right now. And I know it seems weird to be like, oh, music, but a music festival is supporting arts
Yeah.
and live music is art. And festivals are a great way to just kind of like have fun and just help out. And like I just last night is like, oh man, I got plugged in with like a really cool group that does a lot of work like concerts around the city. It's like that's a really cool thing to be a part of.
I wholeheartedly agree that those festivals can't function without all the workers and the volunteers as well. So they need lots of help. But Bunbury was fun, and I that's the first time I remember seeing this song we're going to talk about today. That's the first time I saw any of the Zombies on Broadway tracks. And today we're talking about Island Radio, and that's the first. I know he played it plenty before then, before June of 2018, but that's the first time I got a chance to see it. But Island Radio is the song of the day, and like I said, I remember seeing it there, and I remember thinking, okay, okay. And there were several others on Zombies that I was like not sold on before then, and did come around starting with that date. So that's kind of a special show for me. That's a special set of Andrews. But Island Radio is by Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness, and it is track 9 on Zombies on Broadway, which was released on February 10th, 2017. I still find it hard to believe that I went over a year without seeing an Andrew McMahon show, apparently. I'll come back to that. But Andrew, we've talked about Fire Escape before. I think it's safe to say that you're a Zombies on Broadway fan.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's my favorite. Actually, oddly enough, I was thinking about this when we were prepping. I went to the music festival last year. She got a free ticket, so I've never paid to go to this music festival, but to see the Killers and Cage the Elephant. And during the Cage show, somebody in the group posted the Red Zombies vinyl for a really good price, and I was able to get it for my wife's like, you got that for you. It's like, no, it is yours. Like, it's a special album for both of us. And to get like the color variant was really cool.
Yeah.
And our anniversary is on the 11th, so I got it for an anniversary gift for her. But love Zombies on Broadway. All that is to say, such a great album.
It's we've already done some talking about listening to albums front to back, and I'm a self-proclaimed person who listens to albums full all the way through. But what I realized just the other day is I put Zombies on Broadway back on in preparation for this, and I was like, wow, it's been years since I've listened to it all the way through from beginning to end, and I need to do that right now. And I like this album more than I remember. Banger after banger on this album, and then you get to the end, and it's just like wraps up so beautifully. And I had forgotten where Island Radio fell in the track list because as we'll talk about, I'm just so used to hearing it in a live show or like associating it with the live show that I actually forgot where it fell on this album. And it's like the wrap up of the kind of final of the kind of more electronic sounding tracks, I guess,
Yeah,
if you will. And then it kind of goes into the more ballady type of outro in Love in Great Buildings and Birthday Song. I was like, maybe there's some meaning there. I'm sure there is, actually. But I appreciated the album more through with this listen than I think I ever have before, and so I'm glad I did that, and I'm glad I had the opportunity. And the inspiration was to have this conversation. I mentioned earlier that this song didn't hit for me right off the bat. It took a while. Did it hit for you right away? Like when you first put on Zombies, when you first got that album, did you like it right? Did you like this song, Island Radio, right away, or did it take a while, like for me?
it took a while, and I was actually while you're talking looking on Setlist FM to see if he played. So the first time I saw Andrew ever in any iteration was the Zombies in America tour in Louisville, and I looked up to see if he played the song because I didn't
Hmm.
remember if he did, and he did right before Dark Blue, which is probably why I forgot about this song because seeing Dark Blue live for the first time ever, obviously, it's like a transcendental experience. But uh, so no, it did not. It this was. I know we're gonna get to live history with the song, and you and I both have extensive live history with the song because it became a staple.
Yeah.
So he was still, and he not to say that he doesn't play Synesthesia regularly now, but that was his song before the encore in that kind of era, and he did the parachute over the crowd,
Hmm.
and then it was yeah, so it was the UDF tour where they did the pool thing with a song, and instead of doing the parachute during Synesthesia, they put the blue tarp over the crowd, and we basically just did the same thing.
Yeah, like made
Yeah, like
waves.
waving it, like waves. Yeah, That's when the song hit for me because I mean, obviously he played it the first time I ever saw him. I don't remember that. That's again probably another reason I have such a deep connection with Zombies. Like that's the first tour I saw him on. But
Oh, true. Yeah, that makes sense though.
no, this song did not hit for me. It's very similar to I would compare it to Everything Must Go, which was the opener on that tour. Did I mean it wasn't a bad song. Didn't not like it, but it's to this day probably my favorite opener opening sequence. I mean, maybe Something Corporate opener was like a little more like rock show, like which
Yeah,
was amazing. But like, not to say that I mean, he turned Everything Must Go into a rock song with that intro. But like the piano, right? I mean, that's the most elaborate like stage setup I've ever seen him have of any time I've seen him. So
you're
it's
right.
fair to say that's a really and that to me that song like I didn't think much about that song, but like after that tour, it's like I love that song, you know.
Hmm.
So
I sometimes I forget that Everything Must Go was the opener of that tour, and I know I've talked about that song on there, but yeah, when you get to 104, this is the 104th song I've talked about. Sometimes I forget some of the things I've said, but you just reminded me of talking about that song in particular, and that was another one that came to life for me in the live show as well, for some of the reasons that you said. Well, let's talk a little bit about some things about this track. So Tommy English was the producer on this track, and in fact, I would say his role was very significant on this song, and I'll talk about why. But the other song that Tommy English co-produced on Zombies on Broadway is "Brooklyn, You're Killing Me." And Andrew, some people may remember the episode where I talked about this. It was a solo episode, and I talked about "Brooklyn, You're Killing Me." And some people may or may not remember that it's one of my least favorite Andrew McMahon songs. And I don't bring it up much because I don't like to say that. But like, there's got to be one song that falls to the bottom of all songs that you like, right? And that's just the one that does not hit for me. It still doesn't. I don't remember if I've seen it live. Maybe I have, but like, and maybe that would change it if I haven't. But it's just so different and hard. It's not accessible for me. That's the other one that Tommy English produced was Brooklyn, You're Killing Me. And so that's, I looked at that and I was like, oh, maybe I see the connection, maybe not. What's even more interesting to me is that Tommy English produced the entirety of Tilt with the Wind No More, which we've both talked about together. Even though we've never specifically talked about a song off that album, dedicated an episode, let's say, to a song on that album. So I think I like most of what Tommy English has done. I don't know what it is about that Brooklyn song that just doesn't fit for me. But I think maybe some of the elements are similar in Island Radio, and the reason that Island Radio also didn't work for me from the get-go. Again, eventually did. So interestingly, though, we know that the songs on this album in general were inspired by Andrew's time in New York City. This song was actually recorded in LA. Island Radio was recorded in LA at Studio America while Andrew McMahon was on his New York City hiatus, I'll call it. We believe this song was recorded sometime between May and September of 2016, but I'm not clear on the exact timeline of when he was in New York City versus LA for those sessions. Knowing that, Andrew, knowing that Brooklyn, You're Killing Me and Island Radio in particular, because that's the song we're talking about now, knowing that that was recorded in LA, whereas the rest of the album was recorded and written in New York City, do you think this song, Island Radio, gives like a different vibe in comparison to those other songs? Is there something different about this one?
yeah, I it's interesting the comparison of those two songs in particularly. I was laughing because Brooklyn is definitely like a dividing song, divisive song for Andrew fans.
Yeah.
I personally like it, but yeah, I understand that a lot of people don't. I actually thought it would be like the a perfect. But actually, my wife feels the same way, so I guess I have some support there. I think it'd be a perfect like opener. I think it'd be such a just to hear him come out and just like going to like that speaking rapping part. I think would be cool, but that's just me. Anyway, it's interesting because I never would have tied those two songs together, other than like them being on the same album.
Mm-hmm.
I will say Island Radio is very different, but I think Brooklyn fits into maybe just because it's about New York
Yeah.
that I feel like it fits way more. I think this song definitely doesn't fit into the album as a whole, which is why I think it's so unique. Because I think
Mm-hmm.
actually one thing I remember saying is like where like everything in transit reminds me of summer. I think Zombies reminds me of like a wintry album. I feel like, but this song being like the outlier because it's about
Right.
an island and swimming or whatever. You don't picture winter on an island. So,
Right.
but I would have never connected those two songs. I think it's different. I think Brooklyn You're Killing Me is obviously different because Andrew doesn't have another song really like that in his catalog. Other than that, I think I would say this song is this song when I listen to the album, like it's probably why both of us probably the first time we heard it didn't really think too much about it because as the album as a whole, just this song is very kind of not like in a bad way, but it's like that's not doesn't really fit with
Yeah.
the entire theme of this album as a whole. So yeah, it's different, but not because of that connection.
Probably not. I mean, it was so Andrew took a hiatus, went to LA, and my understanding, and I'll touch on this again in songwriting when we get to songwriting, but like my understanding is this was like his reflection of being away in New York City. So this and that other song that we're talking about. So like, and so it makes sense, but like being that year in like, I don't know, we associate California with warm and sunny. We do not associate New York City usually that way, although it does get warm and sunny in the summer, very humid too, is what I understand. Yeah, that's why. Yeah, that's why there's like this disconnect. But it's interesting that he wrote that and recorded it out in L.A. I wanted to talk about Tommy English's significance on this track, not just not from a production point of view, but Andrew is on vocals, piano, and keyboards as usual on these songs, but Tommy English played guitars, drums, additional keyboards, did the programming, and he did backing vocals. So they're the only two people listed on this track total. So it's essentially a Tommy English and Andrew McMahon song, which we see a lot of in the Wilderness era. We see like, it depends on who he's working with. Sometimes it's just one other person. Sometimes it's two or three. Sometimes it's more. Kind of like Jim Wirt in the Jack's Mannequin days, like how much Jim Wirt had to do with those tracks. That was where Tommy English's role fell here. But yeah, no other musician or producer listed on here or engineer, just Tommy. And Tommy again did co-produce all of Tilt at the Wind No More, which I definitely see the through lines between this song Island Radio and Tilt at the Wind No More. It makes perfect
Yes.
sense. I did find a record, and my own record. I keep track of them because I'm a nerd about it. Island Radio, he did play on piano in June of 2021 on Camp Wilderness. But I have that noted, June 30th, 2021.
I'll have to check that out.
And speaking of live shows, this song's been played live 155 times, which probably includes whatever that was in June 2021. That's all that came up in my search, 155 times. Does that surprise you? Does that sound right?
It became such a staple
Mm-hmm.
for so it felt like it replaced Synesthesia for a while
Yeah.
because it was a similar crowd thing that he did. So
Crowd work, yeah.
maybe it felt like he could only do one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, I've been to shows I played both though, and I just can't remember. um,
I think so. I hear what you're saying though. Like it's not necessarily one or the other, but it's like a similar vibe type of thing, even though
yeah,
they're very different songs. But
yeah.
live show vibe, it's similar.
I know the parachute went away for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and then came back at Three Pianos. I mean, I think it'd been back before that, but Three Pianos, I remember seeing it at Red Rocks. Like, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Like, and now I know that he's doing it again, and he has been doing it at some of the shows.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not necessarily surprised by it. I think the reason, like, that it's a really good question because I don't like think about it in the same way that I do like High Dive, right?
Yeah.
Where
That
it's
he
like,
plays
oh,
almost every time.
yeah, but he does. Island Radio has become like a real, and I don't necessarily. It's not like High Dive, in the sense of like I think if he didn't play Island Radio, I'd probably be like, oh well, oh well. But if he didn't play High Dive, I'd be like, why didn't he play High Dive? So
I agree. I agree on both those sentiments. I love seeing Island Radio live, but High Dive is a can't miss for me at this
yeah,
point. They could just play that every show, in my opinion. It was a staple. It was a staple. Like if you look at Setlist FM, it was played all throughout the Zombies tour, all throughout the Upside Down Flowers tour. If there was stuff in between, I think there were actually. I don't know if it was done on like pen and piano and all that. As soon as He came back from COVID. You mentioned drive-in shows, you mentioned pod shows in Pontiac. He did it at a lot of those, not all of them, but a lot of them. So it was just this like long-term, many years of touring. He would do that song frequently. Where I saw it drop off in Setlist FM is the Tilt of the Wind No More tour. And that's fair because he had a lot of new songs to play. And there was things like
Makes sense.
skydiving that filled kind of that type of live song, I guess. And, energetic crowd work type of songs, I called them earlier. And so we saw less of Island Radio in the Tilt era. I know he played it on Holiday from Real 2024. I don't know if he's played it much else since Tilt of the Wind No More came out. I don't think it was done at Three Pianos last year either, just from memory. I went through. I've seen this song at least 9 times, that does not surprise me. 9 feels like a lot, but like the most times I've seen Andrew was in that era I just named. So, but I was able to count on the set list. And you and I, we talked about this earlier. We've seen some of the same shows. So like, we are both at the Cincinnati Hello Gone Days tour. He played it there. We are both at the pod shows in Pontiac in 2021. He played it there, as well as other places. Now that I think about it, I doubt he played it on Three Pianos, but maybe he did. I don't know that. I didn't think to look at that. We touched on this earlier. Has this song as a live song become a different thing for you?
Yeah, totally, totally
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
It's
Same.
a fun. It's a really fun song in general. And I alluded to earlier, there are some deeper lyrics to it, but it's more of
Hmm.
I just consider the song like a lot of fun. Heat obviously does too, which is I think as much as he considers it a fun song, he also does, and I know you've seen it, where he closes it on the piano by himself a little slower
Oh, yeah.
with the outro.
Honestly, forgot about that.
Yeah. So obviously he thinks it obviously has some deeper things to it. And again, we'll get to that when we get to lyrics. But
Oh, that's good. I have that in my brain right now. That like I can hear it in my brain. Yes, I love that.
that's one of my favorite things. 21 Pilots does that live too, and so it's so cool when you just. I think it's a thing. Like maybe it's because they're both piano players, but it's like just seeing them at the piano, just like doing like a song because 21 Pilots does that on Ride, and it's
Hmm.
like Ride is such an energetic song. Obviously, like they have like it's a big part of the this last two tours. They had like a kid come up and sing it with Tyler from the
Okay.
crowd. It was really cool, but yeah. So like all it is to say is it is fun whenever you see a song like that, like a real crowd pleaser, and the artists just go back and like again like deconstruct and just sit at the piano and close it out. I think is a lot of fun.
I'm gonna go back and watch the end of this video. As I was gonna say, I put 3 links in the show notes, and one's from 2017, and I did that. I don't usually put 3 different links of the same song, kind of done similarly in concert, but I liked the vibe, the different vibe of each. One, you mentioned the kind of the blue cloth that he, kind of like synesthesia, but a blue cloth that he put out in the crowd and people made waves. I don't remember that at Upside Down Flowers, but it definitely happened because you said it, and I found a video that had it, and that looked really
Yeah,
cool.
Chris came out like and did like this. He was like a pool boy or like something with the water, and
Oh
like he
wow,
tested the. I think he had like a little pH test or something, and then they like put the water over the crowd. I remember that. Yeah.
I was at the back for that show. Not regrettably. We talked offline about sometimes I like kind of like hang out in the back of the venue, especially when I'm with a group of people. We were with 6 people at that show, and went to dinner ahead of time, so we weren't like fighting for a spot up front or anything. So like we just got our spot in the back, our earned spot in the back. And I feel like I missed that. I feel like I actually missed that moment amazingly. So, but yeah, that's one of the live videos. The other one is 2017. He just stays on stage, but he kind of comes out to the crowd like he often does during at least one song, and shakes people's hands and like kind of interacts with the front row. And then the third one I put on there was 2024 on Holiday from Real, the first Holiday from Real cruise. He did the duck. And I'm pretty sure he did that on the Rockboat 2021. And so maybe I'm beginning to question it now. I came here thinking I was going to tell you, and I'll still say it. I associate this song with him when he rides the duck. Is that not true?
See now, like you've got me questioning because so
Maybe it was just
he
those
didn't
2 times, and
he
like that's how
didn't
I think about it.
he didn't ride the duck in obviously on SoCo. And it's just been so long since we've had a Wilderness. New, I saw him
Yeah,
twice on New Friends, but you said he didn't play it on New Friends, which
I
he
don't
would have
think so.
wrote it during on New Friends. I suppose he would have wrote it during three times I've seen him write it. It would have been on MFEO.
Yeah, and he did on La La La.
Yeah, anyway, La La La, sorry. So he would have done on La 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 on Jax and then New Friends both times I saw him. So I the last time and then the tour before that was Hello Gone Days. Did he do the
I thought so, but maybe I'm misremembering
maybe he
now. It's
didn't do the
so weird
llama that one or the duck that one. I want to say he did. I
because
think he did in Cincy, but I can't remember.
I saw it nine because I counted them up. I saw it 9 times in those years, and I have long associated this song with When He Rides the Duck, but I'm beginning to question my reality now.
Well, listeners, comment and message
Yeah,
Steve or me if you want, because now I'm really curious, and I'll be talking to Steve to see if he gets any messages about this. Because does he ride the duck during the song? I maybe I know,
yeah.
man.
He at least
Man.
did it twice,
Yeah.
and maybe those are burned in my memory for very specific reasons, but I don't know. But speaking of live shows, I learned something recently that was a little disappointed. I was a little disappointed myself, but it all makes sense in the end, and you'll appreciate this. I learned that the Zombies on Broadway tour just a couple weeks ago. I learned that the Zombies on Broadway tour in 2017. I mentioned earlier that I must have not caught it. I found out it was within 6 times inside of a week in spring 2017. But I wasn't traveling for concerts back then, and I wasn't really paying attention to shows. And I think you can probably guess why. It's because my kids were toddlers.
I totally I yes.
Hardly
Yes.
had any idea of what was going on in the
Yep.
concert world. I found this part ironic of all this, though. I was like, what? I was like, what was I doing in spring 2017? And I literally drove to Cincinnati for a Newfound Glory concert the week after. So I was like, apparently I was traveling for shows, at least that one. I think that's the one I went to that entire first 6 months of that year. But it's funny. I chose Newfound Glory, yet I didn't go to any Andrew shows that whole spring. And I could have gone to a bunch. Like he played 3 times in Ohio. He played Detroit. He played Indianapolis. Yes, we're very spoiled here in the Midwest. I know. Uh, but I missed them all. I bet I would have seen Island Radio a lot more had I been more aware of my fandom back then. So
That's so funny.
yeah,
I'm sure you can relate. For me, concerts are Steve and I are friends offline, so some context here. You and Marcy, and I know about your relation, Michelle and I. It's when like Michelle was like, "Yeah, you can go to that show." Like
yeah,
it's been few and far between, for good reason, and obviously I don't want to miss time with Nora. As much as I love live music, like there's obviously very much more important things, but as husbands, and I'm sure every husband out there listening to this, and wives too, like the burden falls on the mom, no matter how helpful
definitely.
we
Yeah,
we can be. So
yeah. We try.
traveling for a show for a night is a big deal, simply just because we're just not there. And I mean, there's been two different shows in Nashville that I've had to drive back after 3 hours back to Memphis to get Nora to daycare the next day. So
Yeah,
definitely can relate, and it's not easy, and it's a really it's funny because I feel that same way of like I'm not going to the cruise. We didn't go to Red Rocks. We're not going to Three Pianos this year, and that's okay. Like it's just like yeah, like we're good with that. But
yeah.
hopefully, live streams one of them, and that'll be great, and we'll buy that. But it's like I'm not aware. Like if it may be Nashville for Three Pianos, we might have thought about it for like a second. But even
Mm-hmm.
then, it's like I don't think we probably wouldn't have done it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, it's
yeah,
it's
yeah.
tough when your kids at that age for sure. And I'm in a whole different era now where my kids are involved in so much. So I will say I can get away more now, but it's completely date dependent. If it's that one date of one of their concerts or shows or competitions, or it's like, no way. But if it works out, and as of right now, Three Pianos does, fortunately. But I said it like when I heard some rumblings of when Three Pianos could be in August. People are like, "Oh, it sounds like they might say August. Let's see. We got to get the date." I was like, "Well, There are like 2 weekends and actually 2 weeks in August. If it was, I couldn't have gone at all. It just worked out in my favor. It was like, okay, that's the time my kids don't have anything. That's the calm before the storm, before marching band season starts and school starts and birthdays. Our birthdays are in August, so I got lucky on that one. But I completely understand.
Yeah,
But you'll
yeah,
see, you go through different eras of like how you make this work or can't make it work. So in some
yeah,
cases.
yeah.
And it is funny that like the Zombies tour was completely off my radar, probably because I didn't even consider it a possibility. It was like, nope, that's not happening.
Yeah,
So
like you just mentioned, like Haley Williams or like Newfound Glory's tour in Memphis. If they come to Memphis, it's a little different, than like saw there in November and Hello Goodbye because they came through here. But it's like I'm not driving 3 hours, 5 hours, getting an Airbnb or a hotel, and then driving back. Like I just can't do that. Like it, but yeah, it's like I would love to go see Haley Williams, for example.
mhm.
But it's like, yeah, it's sometimes it's been nice. It's like, well, I don't have to fight the crowds for that, the crowds for tickets for that one. It's like,
Yeah,
well,
right.
it's not even on my radar. Like it will be one day. It'll come
Yeah.
back. The one thing we've agreed upon is like we will travel for Andrew and maybe even take Nora to her first show because we think she'd love it. But we're crossing our fingers for this solo tour that has yet to be announced.
Yeah, yeah. I thought it would be announced by now. Still
I don't think
waiting.
it's happening. It's which is totally okay. It
Yeah.
is weird to be like this will be the first year since 17 that I haven't seen him.
It would be odd if he didn't do a tour at all because he's done a tour every year, I think, except for no, I mean even in 2020 if you count the drive-ins.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's done a tour every single year. So,
I saw him twice in 2020, which is so. Or well, no, once.
okay.
And then the pod show was in 2021. It
Yeah,
was
June
yeah,
2021.
yeah.
Yep.
But still, within the COVID era, I saw him
Yeah.
twice. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Even managed then. Yeah. Like I said, I'll link those different videos of Island Radio being performed live in the show notes. But I thought there was some pretty unique ones. Again, I'll just remind the listeners, if you remember if the duck was a thing during Island Radio, I'd be really curious now. I feel like sometimes my mind creates these things. Like maybe it happened once and I was like, that's how I associate it. But I just do want to add on before we wrap up talk on live shows is that I've begun to think as I made my notes for this, and even today when we were like about to get on here, it was just in my mind. I do wonder, and I think we'll get into this when we talk lyrics, but I do wonder if this song became special to me in the pandemic and seeing it at the pod show, even if there was no duck at all. But sure there wasn't. But I think lyrically, and we'll definitely talk lyrics. It makes me wonder if that's what made this song special for me. Now that I think about it, and I didn't make that connection, it may have been today. To be continued on that note. Co-writers in this track include Jake Sinclair and Zach Clark. Believe it or not, this is Zach's only co-write on Zombies on Broadway, and I don't know. I guess I just thought there was more until I actually looked at the track list. And he's only co-written on one other song that's made on one of Andrew McMahon's albums. Do you know which song that is, Andrew?
I don't.
Like I would have had no idea. It's Good Night Rock and Roll and Upside Down Flowers. Again, just I didn't realize there were so few of them. I was thinking they'd collaborated more, and I think they have in a sense. But those are the only two that are on his albums.
I wonder if how many he's written on Zach's.
Yeah, I wondered that too. I was thinking about Zach's albums
Mm.
and maybe like one-off tracks that they've done together, maybe somewhere else.
They were just in the studio.
I
Mm,
heard that. Yeah, someone told me. I didn't see it myself, but someone told me that. Makes you wonder. Is it an Andrew project? Is it one of Zach's songs? We don't know that, right?
No, what's next for Andrew? Right.
Yeah.
That's I think we're all still wondering.
Yeah, yeah. What is next? Is it? But yeah, Jake Sinclair and Zach Clark are the co-writers on this song with Andrew. I've only heard of Jake Sinclair because I'm a big Weezer fan, as everyone knows, and he's worked with them quite a bit in the recent years. I mentioned this earlier, but the timeline with the songwriting with these tracks is that Andrew supposedly wrote this song, I guess, when he returned to LA after being in New York City for a while. And we touched on this topic in the Fire Escape episode, Andrew, but I know he had this to say in an interview from that time period, referring to this song and Brooklyn, You're Killing Me, which we talked about earlier. He said, those tunes came out of that experience, and it was kind of my mic drop about New York. And he says, I got to go home. That's kind of what he was saying about like escaping New York City, getting away from it for a bit, retreating. And then that's how these songs came out, was like a reflection of that. And I think that's, I think we can make some connections in the lyrics maybe. But Andrew has stated that in this song, Island Radio, he, quote, uses unrequited love as a metaphor for being trapped on a deserted island. We talked on the show about the difference in Andrew's songwriting when he takes on the perspective of a character, or the song is more autobiographical at times. But what do you think, Andrew? Do you feel like this song is more autobiographical, or is it one of those like character studies where he's throwing out a character that's feeling this way?
I've always had my opinions on this album as a whole, that it's very much about him,
Mm-hmm.
which kind of makes you ask, what the hell happened in New York?
Yeah,
It's not in
true
not in a
story.
bad way, but definitely, there's definitely some interesting lyrics, both in Brooklyn and in this. Turning good men into liars in Brooklyn, I've always been like, oh, what does that mean? I think just the chorus, last transmission from the island radio, double vision wrapped in last night's party clothes. I can't spend another night alone. I tried swimming, but I can't get home. Last transmission from the island radio. Just whatever happened was going on in New York City. I don't know if he just got super into partying,
I think so.
uh, you know, uh, dropping lines like beggars in the snow and fire escape.
Yeah.
I think there's in the sense like what the hell happened in New York City, but also like I mean he was a dad at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I think birthday song is another kind of a breakdown of like I gotta stop.
Mm-hmm.
I can't go to New York and just party with my friends 24/7 in the name of making an album and not really making be making an album maybe during the day, but I'm out till all hours of the night, and I need to go home, and he did, and
Yeah.
all that is to say, I've always taken this album to be very autobiographical, and maybe there are some characters in it, but I think he's talking about himself and just what happened in New York.
I agree with you. I think it's the album about the experience. So he went out there to make an album, and he left with some scars, and he maybe went too deep. So he went to this place, magical land. It can be like New York City and other, big cities with your friends and having fun. It can be like a magical type place, but you got to realize when enough is enough. In some of the lyrics you just read, I feel like he got stuck. So he went there and he felt stuck, and he was like, oh no, like I got to get home. Yeah, so I do feel like it's autobiographical for that moment in time. But with that also, and I know he does this on every album, but throughout the album, he's also like pulling from themes from other places in his life, his history, his present, his family. But this album, this song feels very much based on that experience. So yeah, definitely about where he was at in that moment. Most of the songs on this album, including Island Radio, were probably written sometime between August 2015 and April 2016. And then here's what Andrew had to say in a Concord.com interview in 2017. This is about Zombies on Broadway as a whole, not specifically Island Radio, but he does mention Island Radio in this quote. He says, I've never been one to do anything halfway. And in my search for a great song and the platforms that get them heard, I've been guilty of wandering down the wrong roads, or putting space between myself and the people who care for me the most. A good portion of this album meditates on the theme Walking in My Sleep, Birthday Song, Island Radio, find me in various stages of some voyage away from and back to the life I've built for myself. Music tests the bonds that keep me earthbound. I think we've heard these themes before in Andrew's music, like the astronaut that's gotten too far from Earth, right? Like went a little too far this time, can't get back, trying to get back. So I feel like that quote was really helpful in you made the connection already, Andrew. Like Birthday Song and Island Radio, they're about a similar thing. They're very different songs, but they're about the same thing. about getting back to what's important, about being out there and realizing what's back home that you got to get back for. But yeah, Andrew talks about these songs like they're part of a larger voyage, moving away from and back to the life he's built. Andrew, where do you think that Andrew McMahon sits on this journey? Is he drifting in island radio specifically? Is he drifting further away, or is he starting to find his way back throughout the song?
I think he's starting to find his way back. I think it's a big theme of, well, especially Tilt, but Upside Down Flowers being the next album. Like he starts
Mm-hmm.
to talk about that, House in the Trees, just his appreciation for the people in his past.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like he had like an existential awakening in New York City of like I can't do this anymore. Like I think the Tilt connection of Submarine being a zombie song that he reworked for the album, and going to Little Disaster. I've burned all my bridges on my long journey, or burned all the bridges on my long journey back. And
Mm-hmm.
he specifically talks about finding his way back a lot. And as a married man, I feel like there was some tension in their marriage. Not in a bad way, but I think his wife was like, you can't live this life. Like you
Right,
just
a strain though, because
yeah.
not only the distance, but just like we talked about this earlier. Just for us, it's we were talking about going to concerts, but like for him, he's living a lifestyle hundreds of miles from home,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that would cause tension. Yeah, when he's needed at home, like we
Yeah.
talked about as fathers.
Yeah.
On one hand, he was doing his job, but on the other, he acknowledges here that he went a little too deep into the whatever you want to call it. But we've seen this theme a lot of times in his music. Yeah, you're right. That's a good call out. Little Disaster in Submarine, which touches on themes from that were touched on in this very album that we're talking about today. I do want to return to that question though when we talk lyrics. But first, let's touch on the sound real quick. I got to admit, the sound of the song, and this is going back to what I said originally at the top of the episode. The song, the sound of it was a little off-putting for me, like several Zombies tracks, to be fair. It's why I didn't like the song for a while. I struggled at first with how hard it was to pinpoint the actual instruments, the individual instruments. So at this point in the episode, I like to say like, "Oh, I hear this and I hear that." I don't hear individual instruments on a lot of this track for the most part. It kind of blurs the line between live instruments and program sound for me, and I will say here and now that doesn't bother me as much as it did 9 years ago. But it did bother me. I'm not as into pop music as some people are, and I'm always looking for that live instrument sound, I guess, if you will. Maybe that's the wrong phrasing. But Andrew, do you think the sounds that he uses in this song add some kind of meaning to it, or like what? It's got to be intentional, right? I think that's obvious, but like, does it add meaning these kind of programmed sounds, or could it create distance for fans like myself? And I don't know where you sit on this, but like that I can't hear. Like I want to hear guitars and I want to hear like the piano. And where do you sit on that line?
That's a really interesting question. Because I think like the theme of the song, lyrically, it's very kind of muddled. I was underwater when the siren came and saved my life. Every day started out last night. Night started over.
Mm-hmm.
I was on the roller coaster, found the ground just in time. In my last transmission from the island radio, just like he's like alone on an island, and so when you think about that, because I agree, you can't really hear. It's a very produced song.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say overproduced. I don't think that's the case, but it's just very produced. It's a very
It's a lot of
pop
programming.
song.
It's a lot
Yeah,
of
programming.
computer.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. I call it computer sounds. I know there's technical terms. I don't know what those are.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But no, exactly. Yeah, very computer sounds. I, like you, want to be able to pick up piano, guitar, drums. I think it's probably like the, on a side note, like listening to the pod, like when you're like, oh, this is a drum kit. I'm like, oh man, that's kind of not disappointing, but it's like, oh, I'm surprised that it wasn't a live drummer,
Mm-hmm.
even just a studio drummer that he often chooses just to use the drum kit for the actual recording of the song.
Yeah.
But all that is to say, I think it, if you look at it lyrically and you talk about what you're talking about, I think that does add something to it. But
Yeah,
I've never thought about that before. This is definitely not a track I would show somebody who's new, like trying to get into Andrew's music, unless they really enjoyed that type of music. I think,
true.
oh, he does do stuff like that. But,
Hmm.
you know, maybe more broadly than like calling Andrew punk or emo or whatever, I'd call him like a rock artist, but I think broadly I could be like, yeah, you like rock music, you probably enjoy at least some of his stuff,
Hmm.
maybe not everything. So this probably would not be my intro track to Andrew.
Yeah.
But I do think that when you do break it down, it does absolutely add something to it, but it does risk creating distance. I think a lot of zombies, Brooklyn being a great example, like
Yeah.
a lot of them risk creating different distances, especially if you go to the first album kind of being, obviously every artist that you enjoy, or you and I enjoy, or anyone enjoys is evolving over
Hmm.
time. And that's what you want, as much as like I joke that like if Blink 182 made like Dude Ranch Part 2, I would love it. But at the same time, I want to see
Yeah,
them evolve as
that's true.
musicians. Um, so I like that he's not doing the same thing. But if you look at like the first album kind of being a bridge between Jack's Mannequin and The Wilderness, and then this
Hmm.
album he really kind of, there's a few songs on here as we've talked about that really lean into that pop direction that he wanted to head as an artist, and especially on Flowers, and then now with Tilt, like in a major way.
I would put Tilt and Zombies in the same bucket, like style, genre wise, if you will. It does make me wonder now that we're having this conversation, and I hate to speculate, it sounds negative, but I wonder if I would have made the connection to Zombies on Broadway eventually had I not ever seen the songs live. Because that is what made me connect to these songs. It was the energy of this song that this song created in the live show among the fans that was like, I get it. This feels so good. And again, probably lyrically, I probably had to notice those lyrics for me to make the connection, to that through line that I mentioned earlier. This is the same lyricist, this is the same songwriter that I've been following for years. And
Yeah,
it's that poetry that I look for, that meaning I look for, and he's still doing that despite what the songs sound like. So while I listen to Island Radio on streaming on the album now, and I enjoy it overall, sound wise, lyric wise, everything, I'm making more connections now than I used to. It was hard for me to access or grasp back then when it first came out. So once I got past the being able to identify the instruments, I think I started to focus more on how the song feels and how I feel in response to the song, is I guess what I was trying to say. Are there any emotions or imagery that the sound of the song brings up for you, like before we talk lyrics?
no, just kind of what we talked about already, just with the you mentioning that it's more of like a muddled, you can't really pick out one thing
Mm-hmm.
on it, and I think that's very intentional, although I didn't realize that until we had this conversation, which is really cool.
The couple of words I came up with to not maybe describe the sound of the song, but just like things that I thought of when I was listening. And I was trying not to let the lyrics for the moment cloud what I was thinking about the sound. And I thought of words like hypnotic because it's kind of repetitive, like there's a repetitive beat throughout. And then there's kind of some unfamiliar songs to my own ears that do catch my attention. I'd also say spiritual. I came up with spirit. I was like, I was writing these words down. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
spiritual. Like it feels like there's something like tribal or spiritual going on with that beat. And
Yeah,
maybe that is the word island in the lyric and the title clouding it. I'm not sure about that, but kind of like losing yourself in a moment, and maybe that's again the live experience clouding my vision of the song. Like maybe that's what I'm imagining is losing myself in the song live. I'm not really sure, but I was trying to come up with that because I was trying to compartmentalize. I was trying to separate lyrics from my live experience from like what do I just think about the sound now that I've had nine I can't believe 9 years with this song. So it's
yeah,
wild.
yeah.
Nearly a decade. So technically a year from now, Andrew could celebrate 10 years of Zombies on Broadway.
Maybe that'll be the wilderness return to the stage,
Return to the Wilderness 2027. Look
and
out.
then that'll put off the album for another year. For
Yeah.
sorry, I kid, Andrew, if you're listening, I
Yeah.
love
No, I
you.
mean, hey, I'll take either one. Let's do both, or let's do both.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah, I
let's get
like
the
that.
Zombies 10-year tour, and then we'll do the album at the end of the year.
I like that.
Let's see. So let's talk lyrics here. We talked about this earlier that it may not fit entirely into this collection just based upon you referenced that Zombies feels like a winter album, and that talking about an island and swimming does not make you think of winter. So let's go back to an earlier question. What evidence? So let's start here with the lyrics. What evidence in the lyrics help us know that Andrew was writing about trying to get back? Because that's what you said earlier. You said he was trying to. You think he's trying to get back closer to that than drifting away anyway, right?
Yeah, I feel like this is a really ultimately a really happy song, although it doesn't, as we've talked about, there's a lot of hope to it, I think is what I'm saying. I wish that you were on what I was on, but you were only on my mind. Obviously, he's making like a drug reference there. I think we can be fair with that.
Yeah.
But saying that ultimately, he's just thinking about getting back to Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's stretching this too much to say that, but
No.
I think he's just like, I just want to get back. And we've all been in places in our lives where we just feel distant from the people around you.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize you either just go further into drifting further away, or you realize, like he did, like, I got to stop. Like, even in the idea that this was recorded in LA because he had to leave he was like, I got to get out of New York. I can't stay here.
Mm-hmm.
I got to go home and fix whatever's going on. I got to go be with my kid. I got to hit pause on everything I'm doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I think what's significant about this is, as much as he's talking about getting back and leaning into it, it's also a very like personal journey that he's on.
Yeah.
He's like, whatever my friends are doing in New York, that's fine. They can keep doing that. I just need to get out of here. It's really a mature way to look at things. Even I tried swimming, but I can't get home. Like, I tried it, but let's send this transmission out and let's go. Let's go. He's back in LA, but like, let's go back to where I'm from. Let's figure it out. Found the ground just in time.
Oh yeah. Found the ground just in time.
Yeah.
He made it. He found the ground before it was too late. I appreciate what he does in the final chorus, and we talked about earlier about how he slows it down in the live show a lot of the time, or several of the times that we've seen it. So during the regular chorus, he says "last transmission from the island radio." In the final one, at least the way the lyrics are written, this is my last transmission from the island radio. And I think he's admitting to himself and kind of announcing to either himself or the world that yeah, this is it. I'm getting out. I'm getting away from here and I'm going home. Double vision wrapped in last night's party clothes you mentioned. And obviously he's coming from a place that was different from what home is to him. And I can't spend another night alone. I tried swimming, but I can't get home. So he's trying to escape, trying to get there. And then he finishes again with last transmission from the island radio. So yeah, definitely on his way home, but he has to talk himself there. He has to get there. I love the chorus. I think I've always liked the chorus, despite how I felt about the song in general at the beginning of it, like when I first heard it. And I've always been fascinated by it. For a lot of the reasons that we talked about. Like it's a common theme in Andrew's songs, and I like that theme. I think it's a relatable theme for a lot of human beings, and we can all find a piece of us in something there. Are there other lyrics that resonate with you here?
Yeah, I really like the second verse. I think it's the only thing we haven't read so far, so I might as well read that too.
Go for it.
I could load the catapult and meet you on the other side. You could fold the map in half. I wouldn't have to take this ride. And every day is just another flight. Every flight's almost over. I could load the catapult and meet you on the other side. The other side. I just feel like he's just talking about. I love that you could fold the map in half. Like, you could stop this and I wouldn't have to. But also then, like, in the same way, going back to, like, I could load the catapult, and like, really this is a personal thing that he has to make the decision to walk away from. That it's not going to be like, as much as he loves his family and his friends and everything, he had to be the one to hit pause.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that's why it's so hopeful. It's like, and he did hit pause. I think what's so cool is you know the story around the album. You know it will if you know the story around the album. If you know the story around the song, he
Yeah.
did find a way to hit that pause button and go home and made a phenomenal album, and that closes out with Birthday Song, which I think you could easily make parallels between those two songs, and realize it's like I've got so much more than I've ever had. Even in going to back to Little Disaster, everything I need, I have it,
Hmm.
and I think that's why he performs it like he does, like
Yeah.
where the crowd is just kind of dancing and having a lot of fun. It's ultimately, yeah, you could be like, oh, it's sad, but I think there's such a human relatability, and you talked about that, to songs like this, that we've all kind of been in a situation like this, whatever it looked like for
Yeah.
any of us, and we all have had points in our lives that we decided it's like, okay, I've got to make a change,
Hmm.
and obviously, like, we don't do that alone. We have help and the people around us that love us, but the decision to make the change had to come from within us. And I think that's where you talk about like a spiritual element to the song. I see a deeply spiritual element to this.
Hmm. I would argue that it does have sad moments in it, but it's ultimately a redemption song. And I
Yeah,
think in that respect, by the end, it feels like it can be joyous because he does make it at the end. Despite the beginning verse, he was underwater when the siren came and saved his life. And then in the chorus, I tried swimming, but I can't get home. But ultimately, he does make it, and he says, "This is my last transmission." So I think that makes it hopeful. Is a word you used earlier. I like that, and but I think it has some sad moments.
yeah, definitely.
There's a lot in that second chorus that you read. I see. I'm just gonna name some words. Catapult, another flight. So he's referencing flying back and forth, obviously. And then the map, I think, is an illustration or a demonstration of like the distance between them. You could fold the map in half and they'd be closer, maybe. I'm not sure. And he wouldn't have to take this ride if the map like didn't exist or if it was folded in half. So I see words and phrases like that, and I just think it's some pretty deep lyrics here. I
Mm,
feel like he's saying a lot more than I can understand, but I think it has some deep meaning to him. He mentions the roller coaster, obviously roller coaster of emotions, or where he was on the journey in the first verse. So I'm kind of I'm bouncing back and forth between the first two verses, but I really like all the things he's saying, even if I don't understand completely what he means. He understands what he means, and I'm pretty sure it's significant to him, to his story.
exactly. I think there's a lot of significance in this song.
That makes it a pretty important song of Andrew's catalog for me. Do you have a favorite line or a part of the song?
My favorite part is the live, the live part. So, picking from the song
Yeah,
itself for everyone who has not seen it live. I like the bridge. I've always liked the bridge. I think that from the first time I heard it, the bridge just stuck out to me. I've always thought that was just a beautiful sentiment. And then even the ending of the bridge, right, like, I wish that you were on what I was on. And then he goes, "Yeah, I'm so gone."
I'm so gone. I love the way he
Yeah.
sings that. It's like
Yeah.
so. It's like he's fading away or something.
Yeah. Yeah, which is like such a double meaning because it's his last transmission. So he's leaving, but also like he's gone in the sense of like, party sense.
Yeah, he's out there. He's somewhere else.
Yeah, he's somewhere else, but also like it is feel like there's such significant, and like I've always I love that. I wish that you were on what I was on, but you were only on my mind. I know I've said that already, but it's just such a cool lyric.
Well, I hate to not be interesting, but I'm gonna say the exact same things you just said. They truly are. You reminded me earlier in the episode about that how he ends it in concert, and yeah, that's my favorite part of the live show. I also again like singing along to the chorus, but overall, if we're looking at this song as a whole, it is the bridge. those words are so significant. And at different points in the time I've had with this song, that line that you read, I wish that you were on what I was on, but you were only on my mind, has meant different things to me at times,
Yeah.
depending on what I'm going through.
Yeah.
It's a really clever lyric, in my opinion. Any final thoughts on this song before we wrap up?
It's very hopeful. It's sad, as you said, very deep, very spiritual, which I think is a really cool way to describe it. I was thinking about, I got to see one song yesterday from John Butler Trio, and it happened to be Oceans, which is a phenomenal song if you've never heard it. It's just,
I have not.
there's no lyrics. This is him playing a 12-string guitar. It's just beautiful. He said before it, and I thought it was really cool. For 12 years, I've thought I've been writing this song, but I realized that for 12 years, this song has been writing me, and now it's just a prayer. And he was like, I don't, he's like, he's like, yeah, I pray. He's like, not to like a particular, like God or anything, but he's like, it's just a prayer in the sense of like, the things that unite us as like a humanity. And I was like, that's just beautiful. And then he
Mm-hmm.
like went into it, and like, just anyone out there, just go listen to the song. And like, it was like a transcendental experience of like, if there is a higher spiritual plane, that song took me there. But like,
Wow.
in the same way, this song, I love that you use that. And maybe just because that's fresh on my mind from yesterday, but like, just that idea of like this deep spiritual connection with music. And that, I mean, Andrew has a Buddha on his piano a lot of times. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he talks in his book about, the yogis that he was seeing, and his doctor would make fun of him for seeing them, with the cancer journey, and
Yeah.
like, but it being such a huge part of his survival, and making it through. I always thought that was like a fun part of the book when he talks about that, kind of joking with his doctor about it. But the idea of like, music connects us in a way, whether or not you're spiritual or not, or religious or whatever. Like, there's something about music that you can, like, a song like this that you're dancing to in the audience. When you sit down and you listen to the song, or you read the lyrics, you realize there's so much that this song, or any song, yeah, well, maybe not Friday by Rebecca Black, but any song is like talking about, something that we all just relate to on a base level. And I think that's really cool.
My history with this song, it's been a journey, you know. I talked about it at the top of the episode. I've mentioned it throughout. I didn't appreciate it as much when I first heard it, but I've come to find its place with me. And and it wasn't a stretch, by the way. It wasn't like I had to, like I felt like I needed to like the song. I don't like every song, obviously. But the live show brought it to life, as I put it earlier. And it feels representative of good memories for me. And I think that's where I land with this, is that not only is it hopeful, it's redemptive. You know, I said spiritual earlier, but when I hear this song, I'll say it again. I imagine Andrew riding the duck or the llama and all of us having a blast. And I don't know why I'm stuck with that memory, but I am. It's like that's what I think of when I see this song, like happy, being happy in a group in a room full of people that are just kind of
Yeah.
celebrating life and maybe coming back. And the lyrics are serious, but I've seen us all maybe it's that we use this song as an escape in the live show for a little while, and we returned to the real world eventually, but we were out there for a little while and we all came back. So that's maybe how I've kind of come around in this song.
Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot.
Well, I want to thank everybody for listening. It's always a real good time to get together with a friend and a fellow guest. So thank you, Andrew, for joining me again. This was fun. It's always good
Yeah.
to catch up.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Big thank you to Andrew for coming on, discussing this song. So I know you're busy with school and work and family and house. What's next for you? What do you got coming up?
School in the summer. Hopefully, we touched on it. Hopefully, a solo Andrew show in the fall. Hopefully,
Oh,
that's getting announced like tomorrow. I keep checking Camp Wilderness like every time. Like,
uh,
even though I know the camp documentarian is not going to post about solo shows, like every time I get a notification, I open up the app to be like, is this it? Is he
Is this
finally?
the one?
Like, I don't know why the camp documentarian would say anything about it, but maybe.
Maybe.
So more power to him. You know, he needs a break. I'm not mad about that at all. But I am surprised that it is not. It's not like him to hint at something and then not announce it. So it makes me wonder if some stuff fell through, or maybe he just decided he needed a break and is only doing the 3 piano shows this year. Or maybe he'll do like a winter tour. Maybe he'd like decide to push it back a little, or something. Who knows?
It's possible. New Friends was pretty late in the year. It was like late November into December that year,
Yeah,
right? Could be happen that way. I'd prefer not a winter tour, but hey, it has to, if it has to be, you know.
yeah. If it's a winter tour, lining up is
Yeah, that too.
silly. But other than that, so last night, as we talked about, volunteered at the music festival and got on great with the people running it, and they were like, "Well, you're welcome to. We're gonna invite you back next year." And then they also do. There's a festival here in the fall called Mempho, which
Hmm.
is always fun. But we usually get free tickets through work to that one. Didn't get them last year though. This year they're like, we'd love to have you come out and volunteer for that. So
Very cool.
that I was already like, yeah. I was like, I'm gonna make sure I schedule 3 days off of work for that one and go do it. 'Cause it's always a good time. Jack White headlined a couple years ago. This last year, I don't listen to a lot of country, hardly any, but I do like Tyler Childers, and he headlined, and I was like, oh man, I really wish I could have saw him. But
Oh,
yeah, Tyler and Casey Musgrave are kind of my extent of the country music that I do, but a little bit, you know. Andrew
I've
got me into Casey.
I mean, kind of the same. I've heard good things about her new album, so that's another one on my short list of like, you know, I said earlier, Haley Williams on the list now. Casey Musgrave's new album is on my list. I got to listen to it. And another recommendation I'll just throw out. I didn't think I was into him, but a lot of people were talking about Noah Kahan's album.
I have not. I need to.
His new album's good.
I feel like if I give my opinion, I'm gonna make a lot of people. I don't love Noah Khan. I'm sorry. I like him. I don't have any issues. Should I say he collaborates with Gary Allen Isaacoff, who I love, but I don't know. I just feel like if I was like, and I know this is, again, we've got a lot of elder emos on this, so I'm sorry, but I feel like if I was 10 years younger, I would really like Noah Khan.
No, I can identify with that. I've never seen or understood the draw. I know exactly two songs prior to his new album by him, and they're fine. You know, they're fine. But I listened to
Yeah,
the whole new album and I was like, oh, okay. I kind of like that.
I'm definitely gonna give it a listen. I really like his deeper cuts, and that was somebody suggested to me. They were like, yeah, his like the any of like his top tracks on Spotify, like you can listen to them, but they're just more kind of like radio
Yeah, radio friendly
radio
hits.
friendly songs, and like they're okay. And she gave me a couple like, and every track was like towards the end of the albums, and I was like, oh, that's an. She's like, yeah, this is not. She's like, go listen to that stuff, and I there's a couple that like I love. I just those ones I got really into, but
Hmm.
so I'm definitely he is on my list to go listen to. I'm glad you can relate a little bit to it, but he's blowing up, so more power to him. And
He's another one. It's a bloodbath whenever those tickets go
yeah,
on
oh
sale.
my
People,
gosh,
I hear it all
yeah,
the time. And it's another one just like Haley where I'm like, I'm bowing out of that one. You guys
yeah,
go for it.
yeah. So I definitely want to go listen to this new album. I've heard
Yeah.
it's very sad. So
Yes, I would concur.
he called it
Sometimes I really
sad.
need that. Yeah.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too. So
To wrap up, I got to pull our probably our favorite quote of the song, right? I wish that you were on what I was on, but you were only on my mind.